The name's Bond.
Well, well, well.
James Bond.
If it isn't you again. Hello, it's Chris. So you know it's really awful when you get laid off your job. I got laid off my job. It sucks. You know what happened to 150 people over at Google? The Stadia design and whatever team that they were making, the Stadia teams that were making both of the internal Stadia games that just got randomly laid off. It's like 150 people or so. It turns out that they actually knew that they were going to have to shut down the studio before, like 5 days before the news came out. They were encouraged that they're making lots of good progress. Good job, go team. So the report here is by Nathan Grayson and Ian Gatch. I hope I'm saying that correctly over at Kotaku. This article goes over specifics about when this happened on February 1st and also the new details that have come out since February 1st. So it's been about 3 weeks since this story originally broke. So on February 1st, Google said, hey, we're no longer going to be making games for any internal Google development teams because, hey, it's really expensive. And they shut down both studios. One was in LA, one was in Montreal. This immediately laid off about 100 people from 150 or so that were in both studios, and then 50 were said to be redistributed across Google. However, they could find any kind of positions because they're like a bajillion trillion dollar company. Note, this also does not include the Google Stadia employees that were just having to still work there because Stadia still exists. It still is something that needs to be updated. When third party games come to Stadia, there needs to be a team that actually provides that service. However, this is not for any kind of internal development, which apparently they were making good progress on until this kind of got inexplicably shut down. So, according to the Kotaku article, about a week before this February 1st notification, Phil Harrison, who is the director for Stadia, said, hey guys, listen, you know what? You're making great progress. Keep up the good work. I'm really proud of what games we have. Like, thumbs up, smile emojis, lots of exclamation points at the end of the business emails. And in this Kotaku article, it seems like Nathan Grayson and Ethan Gatch, now I think I'm just saying the name wrong. Both of them did report it and they found some sources that were able to back up stories and say, hey, yeah, he did really send this email or, whatever, actual inside people that worked at these Google studios. And he said that this is kind of telling of the management that Google had at this time, where it was just clearly not super organized. When Stadia launched back in 2019, it just seemed really rushed. And I actually covered this in another video where I briefly talked about them closing it down, but it's like, wow, look at this new feature. You can use your internet. You can use Comcast. As long as you have this kind of download speed, you should be fine. And you don't even need a fancy computer. That would be cool if it wasn't super expensive. It was basically a luxury service. You had to pay a lot of money every month just to be able to download it. And then a lot of the time, your internet service would be like, hey, why are you streaming so much information over our network? We're going to, kind of clamp down on that. So, once again, internet service providers, they are the real villains. Don't forget. Another fun part of this news story is that the actual people who worked at the Google studios, they just figured this out as Phil Harrison just sent out this email to everyone. It wasn't like, hey guys, we want to let you know that in a week we're going to go public and everyone's going to know that you're shutting down. And here's the details and here's what you should do and here's... No, zero. Zero notice. Don't forget, this is a cherry on top after trying to work through all of 2020, basically. Just being totally unable to communicate, having to do everything digitally, not being able to go over and talk to someone in a cubicle. Cut! Professor, edit that out. Professors can edit that out. Making games when there's COVID is probably not easy because a lot of the game studios, you could just walk over and talk to Fred and you guys could kind of bounce ideas off of each other or something and maybe something would end up on the cutting room floor rather than sending like 6 emails or a bunch of messages on Slack. Basically, the time is just exponentially increasing for how long it takes to get even simple things done, especially decision makers. You need to have project managers like really clamp down on everything, and if that doesn't happen, these things will never come to light. After the news that broke on February 1st, employees had to apparently wait 3 days, 3 whole days, to talk to this Phil Harrison guy and try to get some more information about what the hell happened, what's going on. We thought we were doing great. He did apologize because he said specifically that my email was misleading and that they already knew that they were going to shut it down And he was just kind of like, yeah, guys, keep up the good work. Just for fun, I guess. In this email to in this conference call, Phil Harrison apparently, according to the Kotaku article, has about 4 sources that are saying that this is true, that he basically also blamed a lot of parts of the situations that Google put themselves in as the cause. One of them being the super expensive cost of video game development, as if that wasn't already super well known, and not as if, they didn't bring in 150 people to actually make something that was super hard and expensive. And even a precursor amount of research would tell you that, hey, making video games is so expensive. It's so expensive. The only people who are making it are just giant corporations or people who have already been doing it forever. Sony, giant corporation. Microsoft, giant, humongo corporation. Sony, humongo corporation again. Underline it 3 times. They basically just rule all the electronics in Japan. Nintendo, they've just been doing it for like 35 years, and they just have so much money they don't know what to do with it all. Like as soon as someone just whispers Mario, they're like, Mario! And then Nintendo just makes like $80 billion. Sega had to stop, and Sega was giant, and they're still giant. But they just don't, you just can't hang at a certain point with some of these console manufacturers. And Google is probably one of the only people who could actually challenge both internet providers with Google Fiber to have better internet access for people with ISPs, as well as someone who could actually enter into the console market and say, hey, guys, look, you don't even need consoles anymore. Just have really sick internet. Bam, there you go. Games, which is a great idea. I don't have a setup that can run Cyberpunk at max settings. I don't have it's thousands of dollars to invest into that ecosystem. And it is unfortunate that that kind of failed, but for them to not be forward thinking enough that they're going to have to invest potentially millions of sunk dollar cost into this, I don't understand. Another thing that they blamed was Microsoft's acquisitions, and they were saying, hey, well, we really had to reevaluate when Microsoft just decided to buy Bethesda Softworks. As if they said, hey, wait a second, why do we have to do this ourselves? Good. That's good after you hire 150 people. And of course, COVID-19 was definitely the reason, because Google must be hurting so much from all their physical store. Oh, wait, I'm sure they're doing just fine on AdSense, since everyone's stuck at home doing absolutely goddamn nothing. And I would take these excuses maybe a little bit more seriously if it wasn't from a company that had so much money and had the one internet search function. They have the world's biggest marketing platform with Google AdSense. They aren't hurting for any sort of money. Everything they do is basically an experiment. But for some reason, they're super tight with budgets. And sometimes these things need to go beyond common short-term financial goals, and they need to go for long-term financial goals. Something else in this article is apparently it's really hard for these devs to actually find new jobs within Google, because Google kind of just hires someone. They're like, hey, you're really good at JavaScript. Come work for us and be an engineer. Or you're really good at this. You're really good at that kind of programming. And these people are like, hi, I make video games. I'm very specific. I only know how to make extremely complicated video games. And they're like, maybe you could help our algorithm? They're not really sure what to do with these 50 people that haven't been laid off. To also recap what Phil Harrison has actually done successfully, Phil Harrison helped to launch are you ready for it? PS3. Now that was a good console launch. $599! What else did he help to launch? That's right. You remember it. The Xbox One, baby. That's right. If you don't have access to internet, there's other consoles out there for you. We call it the Xbox 360. And this is his next console launch over here. So basically, yeah, if you're working at a company and you see Phil Harrison is now been promoted to director of a new product, just start looking for a new job now, before whatever he launches fails miserably, and then you have to go look for a new job. Like, just do yourself a service. If you see him walking down the hallway at work, just know that your time is over at that company and, start to look elsewhere. This is also oddly reminiscent of the time that Blizzard had financial records in 2018, I believe, and then in 2019 they laid off about 800 people just because, I don't know, money's. The same time they paid Bobby Kotick several $1 million, like $33 million. And I think they hired someone else with a signing bonus of $10 million. And if they gave up just a small fraction of that money, they could keep all those people employed. However, what a wonderful world we live in, Yeah, corporations don't It used to be that a lot of these companies would operate on a business level, but they'd also have to understand, they'd have to go into things knowing there'd be sunk costs. Things take a lot of time. However, with the way that the stock markets are going, investments, and just what actually determines what a company does in 2021, I don't think the companies are as long-sighted. I don't think that companies are, and what does that mean? For you, it probably means you're going to be laid off if the stock isn't rising at a major company. Google would rather burn 150 people's lives than invest just a little bit more of the trillions of dollars that they have in capital, because they didn't understand what they did when they started, and instead of admitting any wrong, they lied to their employees, potentially causing even more upheaval in their already just COVID plague life. So it's a horrible thing. You hate to see it. And I'm glad that people like Nathan Grayson actually do journalism. They actually go out and find sources that can corroborate some of these claims. They can find additional information that's just kind of being pieced together, because it was very odd. I don't know why they would be like, yeah, let's start major development on a game that'll come out in 3 years. And then a year into it, they're like, maybe not. They didn't even have a chance. And now that's 150 people, that lives you've kind of super messed with. So I hope those people find jobs soon, and I hope that this is a trend that stops in the game industry. Anyway, this is Chris. If you guys want to find other videos like this, you can check me out on my YouTube page. I have a Twitter, I have a Twitch, I have a Patreon. No OnlyFans yet. People are probably worth more than just paper. All right, guys, that's it for now. All right, bye, friends.